Welcome to the Whole Enchilada, a community of high achievers that fight the status quo, rebel against mediocrity, and make life happen. Let's go. Hey, Enchilada Nation. Boy, do I have a treat for you today. This last week, I was in Austin, Texas at one of the biggest real estate conferences in the country, and I had the opportunity to team up with two other incredible podcasts to do a podcast mashup, which was so much fun. We talk about a lot of really interesting things as far as industry changes, market changes, what we see as the biggest opportunities in the market, and even going back to saying if we were to give advice to agents and entrepreneurs today, what would that be? I just really love the conversation. Not only was I able to contribute, I took a lot of notes. I can't wait to share this with you with a couple of the biggest names in the real estate industry, David Morse, Linda McKissack, Dana Gentry. If you do not know those names, you need to follow their podcast as well. Can't wait for you to jump in and hear this conversation. You will not regret it. Enjoy.
I know that most of you guys know the people to my left, and yet I want to kick off tonight with a quick introduction. And so I'm going to hand the mic right to Miss Dana Gentry and tell everyone who you are, why you're up here.
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. I'm Dana Gentry. I'm up here because I do really, if David asks me to do something, then I say yes. And then Linda has to say yes. No, but super excited to be here tonight. Thank you guys for coming out and for donating to KW Next Gen. I did want to share with you, I shared this with Linda and these guys up here earlier, but Gary Keller does say thank you. He actually responded to the email that I sent out in a newsletter and said, like, thank you so much for doing this and bringing value and, you know, putting it towards Next Gen. So thank you guys so much. I'm an OP. I've been in real estate for 19 years. And just love leading and being with all you guys and providing value. So thank you.
And if you have kids or nieces or nephews and you haven't sent them to KW Next Gen, do it. It's an amazing, remarkable opportunity to sit in front of the room with Gary. It's an amazing opportunity to be in front of Gary Keller for the time that he pours into these kids. And what a great opportunity for us to leave a legacy then with the next generation of people that are going to come up and be in our business. Can you hear me? No? Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? How about now? Okay. That's better. Just speak into it. I said, if you have kids or nieces or clients who have kids, send them to KW Next Gen. I'm going to tell you, you want to weigh to a parent's heart, invest in their kids. You want to have a client for life, send their kids to KW Next Gen with Gary and let them be in front of someone who can pour into them, they can learn from, he can really invest in their future. So I'm Linda McKissack. I've been with Keller Williams a long, long time, 30-something years. I love this company. I think it's the best. It will always be the best. And I'm here because if Dana asks me to do something, I do it. Because there will be...
Are you sensing a theme?
Because if I need her to do something, I know she will. So I have to always say yes. And we're happy to be here, and we're certainly happy to support KW Next Gen.
Awesome. I'm Marcus Green. Nobody asked me to be here. I just showed up. And this chair was open. So, no, I've been in real estate for 23 years, and I've been in a lot of different roles in real estate, from agent, property management company, team leader, OP, and I just am really enthralled with leadership and growing people. So if you're not already part of the Enchilada Nation, you are now, which I host the Whole Enchilada podcast, which the premise of that podcast is I got tired of seeing people put on a pedestal in our industry that was crushing it in one area of their life, but everything else was in shambles. And so the whole premise of the Whole Enchilada is I believe you can live an elevated life across all aspects of your life through health, wealth, adventure, spirituality, and in business. That's the journey I'm on, and I'm inviting you to go on it with me. So thank you for being here tonight.
Give it up for Marcus. So I hear this mic doesn't work, but I yell into the mic, so I hope you guys can hear. My name's David Morse. I get to serve about 1,100 agents in Arizona as the CEO and general manager of KWAZ, KW Southern Arizona, KW Elite. We have a terrific organization. Looking out, I see probably a dozen of our agents out there. Thank you guys so much for being here. I've been out in Arizona for about 5 years. Before that, I got started in KW as a team leader out in KW Maine, and somehow got coaxed from the ocean to the desert. I still don't quite know how Kristen did that, but that woman's a magician. So it was a terrific opportunity, and we are serving homeowners, and I believe we're doing it at a really high level. I also host Real Talk with David, formerly known as the All In Podcast. Thank you guys for subscribing and following me on that journey. And I really resonated with what you just said, Marcus, because for several years, I was one of those people that was crushing it in business, but really a lot of aspects of my life was in shambles. And as probably someone who's a younger leader in this organization, I'm thankful for the lessons that I learned in my early 30s on how to elevate all those other aspects of your life. So if that's a conversation that's intriguing to you, I'd invite you into that conversation that I'm having every week on Real Talk with David. We'll throw our QR codes up. Guys, as you can tell, the people up here, we don't have it all figured out. And yet, one of the advantages that maybe we each have in our lives is we are running organizations that allow us to peer inside of the businesses of a lot of you guys as top agents. And so we see trends. We see common pitfalls. We see the areas where you're crushing it and you are winning so that we can compile best practices. And I know that's why you're here at Mega Camp this week. It's to gather best practices so that you can take them back into your marketplace and you can crush it as well. And so as we dialogue tonight, and this truly is a dialogue, a few of you asked me, Caroline, where are you? Caroline asked me, who are you interviewing tonight? And I said, I'm interviewing you. Aren't you excited? And here's the reality. The most value is going to be determined by your participation level. I say this at every mastermind in all of our offices. I believe that the answer is always in the room. All right? And so part of us being up here is not to pontificate all these wonderful things. It's to volley questions back and forth that cause you to think, that challenges your current reality so that you go out and you perform at a much higher level. Can you all afford to operate at a much higher level? All right. Yeah, we can as well. And so the format of the rest of the night, I'm going to ask these industry experts some of the things that they're seeing in our various regions throughout the country, and then we're going to open it up. We've got 2 mic runners. Ernest is helping us run these mics. They used to be bouncers. That's right. So if you have too many of these, they will escort you out. But they're going to be running the mic. And guys, no question is off limits. This is a transparent conversation. It's a vulnerable conversation. It's a conversation meant to help you. So whether you're an agent in the room or you're leading an office or offices, I want you to ask the questions. And we're going to dialogue back and forth. And as I said before, this may be your first time on a podcast because it's going to show up on Everything Life and Real Estate, The Whole Enchilada, and Real Talk with David. So don't say anything that you regret. We all have. And so, guys, as we open this up, guys, we're sitting at what, August 12th? August 12th. For a lot of us, big changes happened August 1st. More changes officially take effect August 17th. We all operate in different parts of the country, but what are you seeing right now out there in the industry? What's the sentiment of consumers that you serve, the sentiment of agents that you serve? Just what's at the forefront of your mind right now?
This is a good question. I think a lot of times what we initially make the conversation about isn't necessarily the conversation. And so it's so interesting to me, when agents immediately bring the conversation to me about these big changes that are happening, a lot of times it's about how am I going to get paid, which all of that's going to work itself out, in my opinion, as we navigate through this. In my mind, a couple things we really need to be thinking about is taking a step back and asking a couple questions. Number one is, what really triggered this? Meaning, how does the consumer make decisions today? And so I spent a lot of time really trying to understand how is the consumer showing up in the marketplace and how do they approach decision making and choosing their service provider, their guide through the process, and what does that look like? And then in coupling with that, I think the other conversation we're not having is how many people in the room are leaders? Raise your hand. If you didn't raise your hand, you're not listening because you are a leader. Every single one of us is a leader right now. My question is this, though, about leadership, and I'm questioning my own leadership right now, is have I been a great leader through the past market because the market's been great? Or have I been a great leader through the past market because I purposely made an effort to grow my leadership? And I also know that I need to grow my leadership differently in this market to serve both my family, my agents, and the people in my world at a different level. So this is a big conversation for me right now is, number one, before I can serve the consumer better, I have got to elevate my leadership game.
What I'm seeing when I make my phone calls to our agents is two things. One, they are concerned because they've never had to feel like they've had to prove their value or talk about money and all of those things. But the second thing I see is listings starting to sit on the market. And that's a beautiful combination because guess who they need? They need you and they need the buyers. So the conversations are going to get easier because they need buyers for their houses if they start to sit a little bit longer. And so what I'm seeing is a real need for agents to learn great scripts and dialogues around putting the market on one side and them and the homeowner on the other. And your job is to interpret that market and help strategically place them in a way that their home sells and not their neighbors. And that's a whole different conversation, but I'm going to tell you, going through many cycles in this business, it's the better conversation for you to show up as a professional. So I think they're going to work themselves out with each other, but you have to be first convinced of your value, and then you have to be able to do it. But most consumers that we've talked to that's brought it up to us, number one, they think, why does anything have to change, right? And I don't think a lot of them think it has to change. I think they feel like if they want a buyer, they want to be competitive, they're going to offer commission.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot about this. I feel like the one thing we know in life is that there's going to be change. I mean, it's the one thing that we can't avoid. There's always going to be change. And in my opinion, change equals distraction. And I think a lot of this is, I mean, I'm not saying things, aren't going to come from it. We're all going to learn and we're all going to have to make changes. But this has been such a distraction for so many agents, so many leaders, so many brokerage owners for so many months now that I'm like, okay, guys, like we got to keep doing what we are supposed to be doing. We can only talk about this for so long and let it distract us for so long. And I don't want to minimize that because I do think that these are going to be industry changes. But also, people used to carry around MLS books. Things are going to change. I didn't mean Linda.
It was very heavy. It was just a short period of time, but it was there.
But the one thing that we do know with change is people will find a way to come out ahead, and agents will get creative. They will get more productive. I just recently took to dinner some of our top agents in my market centers in each area. Okay. Some of the top agents in my market centers. And it was interesting, the conversation, like they're all putting their heads down and working. I mean, they're having the same challenges and they're, they all got to chit chat and share about what these other agents are doing that are making them mad and all these other things. But at the end of the day, all of them are putting their heads down and they're working and and they're getting more and they're doing more. And I always remember what Gary has taught us anytime there's a shift. And by the way, when you said two camps, it made me think of Linda. I feel like as agents too, when we talk to and leaders too, but we have like a pre-pandemic kind of group, and then like if there's an agent that's never been through a shift before, which right now I think over 70% of agents, realtors licensed with NAR, this is the first time they've ever been through a shift. So like that's two camps in itself, because if you've never had to have a price reduction conversation or your house has been on the market 3 weeks now, like that's different. That's different too. Yeah. But I really believe that what Gary says, anytime there's a shift, there will be agents that will lose market share forever, and there will be others that will gain market share and they'll keep it forever. And this is no different than any of the other times that there's been a shift.
Dana, I will never forget a conversation that I had with one of our agents who had sold 65 listings. It was an agent in one of our Phoenix offices, 65 listings. And I meet with her for a monthly consultation, and she is just visibly distraught. And I'm like, Britt, what's wrong? What's going on? And she goes, I have a meeting with one of my sellers, and I think we have to reduce the price. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, exactly what you just said. We have agents in our offices who have been highly productive, massively successful over the last couple of years, who have never done some of these basic things. And it's no fault of their own. It's just a fact of life. It's a fact of where they entered the tide as it rose. And one of the things that I feel like I'm noticing, and this is no judgment or indictment, I just believe it's true as a function of what I've seen, is that we've really lost our backbone. There's a lack of grit in the industry right now. I have said to more mega agents in the last 48 hours, I'm not exaggerating for effect, in the last 48 hours, well, what do you think that means? And they go, well, I don't know. And then I say, you probably have to increase the frequency of your communication, don't you? Well, yeah, I guess that's probably the case. And guys, what I'm seeing in the industry right now, to your point, is the people that are actually taking action. It's exactly like when the pandemic hit. We had offices in our town completely shut down, close all the open houses, and maybe that was the right decision. I'm not here to argue right or wrong, but the reality, what followed that, was those agents had way more trouble getting back into production, back into activity. And so here's what I know. I don't know all the answers about what's to come after August 17th, but I do know that if you keep one foot moving in front of the other one, you're gonna be more successful. So whatever you have to do to keep moving, do that. And I'm a firm believer that it involves two things. Engagement precedes production. Engagement precedes performance. And so you've got to lean into your team. You've got to lean into the conversations that are happening. Lean into your office. Lean into your operators. This is not the time to go be a rogue, solo, by yourself, isolated agent. The fact of the matter is, attendance at Mega Camp this year is down. You guys are the winners. You guys are the winners because you're leaning in. And I mean that. I'm passionate about this, guys. Can you tell? I'm going to stand up. No, but that's what I see, is this lack of backbone. Why do you think that we perhaps have been coaxed to sleep, that maybe our grit is, or our toughness is waning? Why is that, and what's the remedy?
Yeah, if I can jump on that, because it was interesting. We were in a meeting this morning, and it's funny you brought up the tornado that happened in Kalahari a couple years ago, because ultimately we're in the middle of a tornado right now. This is chaos right now. And realistically, I'm seeing agents in three camps. One is they're in the bunker, like, I'm hiding from this. I don't even want to deal with it. Then the ones that are brave enough to step out in it and get picked up on a hurricane, they're in a spin. And the ones that are winning, the ones that are winning are the ones that are tethered to their core values. They know who they are and what their value is. And if you're tethered in the middle of a tornado, you're going to be okay. You're going to work your way through it. So David, to your point with grit, this is something that I cannot believe how many agents, producing agents that are killing it, call me and say, I'm done. I think I'm out. And it's because they're swirling in that tornado, but they haven't taken a step back and say, why am I doing this? What is this about? What value do I bring to the table? And let me tether myself to my core values. To your point about grit, I'm a big believer in grit and really working through any issue that comes up. The problem is if you haven't done anything previous to earn the grit or deposit grit into a bank account, you cannot lean on it in that moment. That's the problem, is we've been coasting a little bit and haven't done the things to build grit. The good news is you can build grit systematically starting today. It's what are the simple activities that you can start doing and commit to, and it may not yield a commission check tomorrow, but it makes a deposit in your grit bank account that's going to keep you moving forward.
One thing I want to add to that, because you said something about this that made me think of it, but earlier I said the word distraction. If you take the word distraction, inside of that word is the word traction. And inside of traction is actually action. So you have to actually, I don't know who came up with that. Somebody smarter than me, but I just remember. Okay. You did not. But really, I love that, because if you think about it, if you are distracted, the only way to get out of that is to get a little bit of traction, and you've got to get into action. What do you always say about getting into action? Oh, gosh.
Activity breeds activity. We try to solve the problem before we get going. You actually got to get going, because you're going to solve the problem while you're moving better than you're going to solve the problem before you start moving. But we want to freeze. And the truth is, you know, if you get around other people and you listen to their dialogues, I know agents that are actually putting more money in their documents. They're actually going to raise their fee because they know their values more than most agents. So you got to decide, am I going to see this as a negative thing, or am I going to see this as an opportunity to totally redo how I do this business? And I think the agents that are going to win, and they're right, Dana's right. I've been through probably 3 shifts. The market share you gain in this shift, you'll never lose again. But if you don't go in there and get it, you won't get a chance to get it. So now's the opportunity. Somebody's going to get it. And I think the market's going to shift even more. We're probably going to be 95.5 or 98.2 is what it's going to be before it's all over, because good agents will get in there and figure this out. But you learn in motion, and stop getting stuck in the how. Just go start getting. You don't even know what the people are going to bring up yet till you get in front of them. Now you've got a chance to go back, because that'll be the same objection someone else has. You get a chance to go back to your market center, talk to some other agents, figure out how they're handling it, learn your scripts and dialogues before you get it again. But before long, somebody said it today on stage, in a year, no buyer will not expect it to be this way, because they will all have been, that this is the way it is, right? Just like agents who get in now have a big advantage, because they don't know. They just say, how do I do this business? And you tell them. So we got to act like we're new again and we don't know how to do this business, but now how do we need to do this business to win?
In Kentucky, we would say they don't know no better. Isn't that right?
So we were, a few of us were at a meeting early this morning before the summit, and one of the things that I took away was that often we approach the people who are actually crushing it right now with the change that's to come, to gather intel about the change, when those are the least motivated people to actually change. If you're an agent out there and you're crushing it, you're actually probably the one that's the most worried about the changes, because there's no motivation to change. You figured out the market. You have the golden keys. And so my contention for you is, if that's you, I want you to maybe wake up and not say, oh, I've got this figured out, because I don't want you waking up 5 months from now and having lost market share to that solo individual agent that just walked into your productivity coaching program. On the flip side, if you're that productivity coaching agent, brand new to the industry, I want you to wake up thirsty, because you have the opportunity. You don't have systems that need to be broken right now. You have the opportunity to create something completely new, an experience that buyers and sellers aren't getting from those agents down the street who have established businesses. So maybe just a little bit of encouragement for both sides, wherever you are.
You know, also, David, I noticed the people that work their database that have mostly referrals, they're not having any problems, because those people know them, trust them, like them. Whatever they tell them the way it is, that's the way it is. So it's another point back that you got to learn to work that database. That's your asset. That's your advantage. Because if you work the people that know you and like you already and trust you, they're going to walk in and say, gosh, what do we do? What do you think we should do? Right? And so another point is, you got to get to the point where every bit of your business, as much as possible, is people that are in your database. And we've been so busy showing buyers 50 million houses to get one that you haven't worked on the database, right, as much. So now's the time to really pour into that database and build those people that know you and trust you and like you, because they're just going to do whatever you tell them to do.
I agree with that. We'll add one contrary thought to that a little bit, in the fact that I don't want anyone to get comfortable thinking that just because they're in your database, they'll stay in your database. And I think you nailed it with the fact that you have to be actively reaching out with value today, but don't get married to the thought that the same value that earned their business yesterday is the same value they're expecting moving forward. Historically, they probably leaned on you for all things real estate. One of the biggest challenges we're facing, first time I've seen it in our industry, is now the news media is trying to tell them about their relationship with us and what they should expect and not expect from us. Where before, that was all me guiding that conversation before. So I agree. Start with your database and go deep, but don't go naive into it of saying, oh, remember we did a transaction before. Acknowledge that the way the consumer is showing up today, your consumer who used you before is looking at the world differently. The question is how are you evolving to be the solution for them again?
So it makes me think of what Brittany Hodak said earlier, which is she's not so much concerned about how many people we have in our database, how many people have you in their database, right? I thought that was a complete paradox shift to think about it from that perspective. And what I always love, Marcus, what you just said was completely the same as what you said about leadership. You said you were evaluating your own leadership because what caused people to follow you into where we are now may not be what causes them to follow you into the future. And so every conversation we have is actually a leadership conversation, right? Like you are developing as a leader as you lead yourself and ask these questions, and it's having an effect on your business. Guys, I hope that, I think a few commission checks have probably been shared. So I hope you're shooting the QR code. I want to transition us into the next segment. Dana has one thing on encouragement.
Sorry. I don't ever know which mic. Many of you have, if you have ever, I just wait to show this image. Like I carry this laminated sheet around in my backpack at all times. And so I really do, because it's really that good. Some of you have seen it, I know. But when it comes to encouragement, whether you're the camp of the top agent or whether you're a new agent, like run your own race. I think right now we have so many people in the comparison space, and it's very hard to stay encouraged when you are comparing to everybody else. This is a picture of Michael Phelps about to win, to be the winningest Olympian of all times. And you can see where he's looking, right? Straight ahead. And you can see where Chad, what's-his-face, is looking. We don't even know his last name because he did, we don't even. But Phelps won by 1/18th of a second, and they really statistically have said that had he not been looking ahead and he had been looking over his shoulder, Chad, what's-his-face, would have probably won. So I just want to remind you to stay in your lane, focus on your business, because I can't run Stephanie's race, and she can't run Bridget's race, and Shannon can't run mine. Like, we all have our own race to run, and right now there's just so much distraction again. But if you're focused on your race, your lane, your business, like, take that as encouragement, because there's too much of the comparison stuff happening.
I love that, and I want you to put Sha'Carri Richardson. Have you seen this? Have you guys, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, she looks over. Because this will play out perfectly if she doesn't win another Olympic gold medal, because then it will have two sides of the same coin. Anyway, that didn't land. All right, anyway. Guys, I want to transition us, though, to Q&A. I said this is going to be a dialogue. And so for the next, 45 minutes, we've got a dialogue. So what questions do you have as you're running your own race that you want to ask us? Aaron's running the mic. Joe Barker.
This episode is sponsored by Earnest. If you are in the brokerage space and not familiar with Earnest, you are missing out. We've been using Earnest in our offices and in our brokerages for several years now, and they do a great job. So their platform opens the doors for the simple collection of showing retainers fees, security deposits, earnest money, rental payments, and even collecting commission payments. If you're not already using a solution like this, or even if you are, I recommend checking out Earnest at www.earnest.com, 2 N's in the middle of that, Earnest. Let's get back to the episode.
You mentioned distraction. I'm going to speak specifically to you, Dana, that somebody coming into this market during COVID is having a very different time right now. So if you were speaking to an agent that, let's just say, started end of 2019, and everybody said, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, and then it didn't. and it shot like a rocket, and they were extremely successful. And now this happens, and they don't know what to do. Pretend you were talking to an agent that was struggling with that, and you are.
And they had success in the beginning? Well, I would say, remember what Andy Stanley always says, if you don't know why it's working, you won't know how to fix it when it's not. So what were you doing in your business that gave you quick success, that made you take off quickly? Because if you know what that is, then you can repeat that. You can get systems in place. You can follow models that can help you continue to do that. And the second thing I would say is one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned, and that is there's a lot of power in proximity. Get around other great agents, get around other great leaders. I mean, 95% of what I know is because I had proximity to Linda for the last 10 years, very close. And Linda would say the same about Gary, and, whoever would say the same about somebody else. But I would say, know what you did that made it work, and then get in proximity of great people, because that just continues to elevate and your ceiling of and growth. And then I think third thing I would say too is it still is, at the end of the day, this is still a relationship, belly to belly, relationship to relationship based business. And I think the agents that understand that will continue to grow and succeed at a high level. You just have to be great at relationship building. That's never going to go out. It's never going to go away. Yeah.
Thank you. You just got a donation.
Yeah, I would just say, what's not working? In other words, is it because the leads just kind of came in before and now you need to go get them? Because what you got to do in this market is find people before they raise their hand. And that means you have to entice them to answer something you have. Maybe you teach a class and get them in front of you. You just got to figure out, it's a numbers game. So how do I get in front of as many people as I possibly can? Because they're not going to necessarily be calling me now. I have to make sure I get them. And maybe it's not call. Maybe it's do something you love, teach, or, many different ways to do that. Just what are the lead generation ways that you will work? Not ones you hate and have to do it, but what will you work?
My partner and mentor, Kristen, says all the time that the path is always in the math. And the fact of the matter is the math equation, it stays the same. The input and output variables just change. And as much as we hate to hear that, anyone who's been in the business through a shift understands that. To Linda's point, your input is not going to have the same output right now. And so it's going to require, if you're circle prospecting 100 homes, you might need to do 200 homes. One of our veterans, he's in the room right now, he's had to go back to recommitting to showing up to one of our branch offices and making the phone calls on a Saturday for 3 hours every Saturday. I've got to hand it to him because most veterans of 30-some years would probably mail it in and say, well, woe is me, I'm probably getting out. He's taking the opposite approach. And remember the fact that his input just needs to change. And it's having that right effect. And so that's something that I would add. The path is always in the map.
Hi. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Oh, good. Obviously, people are going to have to work harder and keep their energy levels up. And I'm just curious, because agents are going to be out there fighting for listings, showing buyers. What do you four each do individually to keep your energy levels at a high level?
I'll start. Okay, so for me, I have to do exercise. I have to eat right. I have to exercise. And the last thing you want to do when you're under stress is eat right. You really want that big fat cheeseburger and french fries and all those things. But there's consequences that go with that. So for me, I also need to go figure out where do I get my energy? Is it the ocean? Is it the mountains? And sometimes we don't get away enough when it's just stressful because we're like trying to get all the business, when really you should probably take some time away, because it's that time away that you get creative, you get ideas, you get re-energized, and then you can come back and look at this situation through a whole new set of lenses. That's what I would say.
I love that. For me, it's two things. I'm very systematic in the way I operate. Is if I can create a formula that works for me, I can stick with it. So, two things for me is, number one is I really believe in the concept: if you win the morning, you win the day. So my morning routine is very regimented, and it's not wake up and do my lead generation. It is what am I doing for self-care first. In the morning, I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm very systematic in what type of books I'm reading, how much time I'm spending it. But the biggest thing for me for energy that I think a lot of people are missing right now is if you have not done the internal work to understand what your personal mission vision statement is there are days I wake up and I don't feel like doing it. There are days I wake up and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm not that great of a leader. My brain instantly starts working against me until I stand in front of my personal mission vision statement. I read it out loud to myself every single day. I've read it for thousands of times. In fact, this 2 weeks ago was the first time I made a small modification to my personal mission vision statement in 8 years, because there was one little piece that I just wasn't resonating with me anymore. But I can walk into my home office with my shoulders slumped, walk into that, read it out loud, and I'm walking out with my chest held high because people are counting on me, and that's who I aspire to be. So one of the biggest things I encourage people all the time is if you have not taken the time to understand what your personal mission vision statement is, to the point that you could stand in front of your friends and say, guys, this is what I'm about, you need to do some internal work. To me, that's the number one draw for energy.
I think once you have your mission and vision figured out for your own life, you have to have a clear goal, right? I think we've gotten away over the last 3-4 years with just having a wishy-washy goal. But if you and I don't know how to win the morning, win the day, win the week, win the month, we don't ascribe to our GPS and our 411, like, we should expect our energy level to come down, right? And so I think that's one thing is what is your clear goal, right? And then once you have that established, this self-awareness around what charges you up. If you can't, I'm 128% expert. I need this, right? And when my energy's down, it's because I've gotten too in the weeds with myself, and I need to get out there with all of you because that charges my batteries. And so I think you really need to have self-awareness around what charges you up.
I, like Linda and Marcus said, have a very regimented morning routine. I'm pretty psycho over it. Even in the hotel this morning, like, I had to have them bring a mini fridge and all kinds of stuff for all my drinks and all the things. So I have to be I'm pretty OCD with that stuff. And then, like you also, I get energy from people. But Linda had me read a book a couple years ago, Everything is Figure-Outable, by Marie Forleo. And I've had, like, instant girl crush on her. She is so awesome. And earlier this year, she said something that totally struck me, and I actually have it saved in my phone. She said, human beings find happiness in progress. When we are not making progress, things get dark and we start to spiral. And I was in a spiral zone, and I could not figure out why. Well, I kind of knew why, but some days I did, some days I didn't. But really, I wasn't making a lot of progress in certain things in my life. And so I have to be making progress. Like, I got to be either winning or close to winning, or I'm going to start to spiral. At least thinking I'm winning. Or I'm going to start to spiral pretty quickly. But something that she said after that is she gave a challenge, which has been my challenge this year, and some of you will know this, but she said, only say yes to that which you are willing to do joyfully. And so if you aren't 110% willing to do it joyfully, then for me right now, the answer has to be no. Because I have to focus on the things that are going to give me energy, where I can have progress and win, get a little momentum. And remember, if you need momentum, like, you might need to go hang out with somebody who has momentum so you can borrow a little bit of their momentum, because that works too. But to me, like, that's really kind of... And then I have the affirmations and I'm a psycho about all that stuff, so I'm always listening to something. But yeah.
Can I share two things? One is I think it was David Morse that shared in a meeting that we were in. When you examine a winning team and a losing team, which one looks tired?
The losing team.
Always. When you're winning, you have energy, right? Like, and I thought that was so enlightening this morning to remember that. If you have that clear understanding around what it means to win, your energy naturally comes up just a little bit. I think that's part of psychology. And I forgot the other thing I was going to share, so we're not going to talk about it.
I think I remember what it was. In your brain.
We're on the same wavelength.
No, you talk about progress. I shared a quote this week around progress that I thought was really interesting. It's pain, plus reflection equals progress. And I think all of us are in pain at some element. And I think if you sit in the pain, it's not pain plus random action equals progress. It's pain plus reflection. And if you reflect on what's going on in your world and like what's really important to you, it's going to instigate action and progress. So I needed to hear that at that moment. I shared it this week, but made me think about when you said progress.
Well, I remembered. Thank you. This is why we're buddies. If you're a millennial or anyone who's or Gen Z, any Gen Zers out there? If you're plugged into social media, don't get wrapped up in other people's routines, right? To Dana's point earlier, you've got to run your own race, and I see way too many millionaires and billionaires talking to you about this 4-hour morning routine that isn't what got them where they are today. What got them to where they are today is the action that they took. You're the only one that can figure that out. So it might be the full miracle morning, 30 minutes of savers. It might be what works for me or for Dana or for Linda and Marcus. It might be set an alarm, brush your teeth because it wakes you up, and start lead generating. Right? And I think that's important in our age because we all roll over. We all do it. I do it. We pull out our phone. We start scrolling. We go, oh, man, my morning routine doesn't look like that. Oh, no. Shoot. All right, let's move on to the next question.
You may have answered some of it, but I've been in the business for a long time. And sometimes even when we're really successful, we experience burnout. Like, I'm ready to hang it up, but I'm having one of the best years ever. So how do you, I know you said tie it to your vision, mission, all of those things. And listen, I'm as Kellerized as they come, but I need some help with how do you get over this feeling of it's just too much?
Well, I had that about 12 years into my business, 200 transactions a year. At the height of my career, I could only say it to one person. That was my business coach. I'm more successful than I've ever been, and I don't feel challenged. And I literally could walk away from this tomorrow. And thank God he didn't let me do that because there's no reason to do that, right? But sometimes we're either not doing enough of our unique ability, which is that part of us, the way we're wired, that if we could do it, we could do it for the next 25 years, never get tired of it, don't even worry about what you're getting paid. But when you bring value to the world, you get paid, so you don't have to worry about the pay. So we're either doing a lot of that drains our energy, that doesn't give us energy, or we're just looking, there's two kinds of entrepreneurs. There's one entrepreneur that when they get success, the next thing they want to do is go find that next achievement. And what they're doing now doesn't feel like that. It feels like you're maintaining something. The only thing changing is the color of the carpet. So you might need to find that next scary commitment that causes your adrenaline to go, gets you excited. You're scared to death because you don't really know you don't have everything you need to do it. We don't do enough of that. We stay in that complacency, and nobody feels good there. If you think about your best moments in life, it's when you were doing things that were hard and you didn't know how you were going to get it done. The other kind of entrepreneur has a dollar amount in mind. They're driving the car they want to drive, the house they want to live in, the country club they want to go to. And they really are just kind of thinking, you know what, I just want to check out and go do something else. You got to figure out who are you, right? Because 9 times out of 10, you're just not feeding that piece of you that likes that challenge or the thing that takes courage. So I would say ask yourself, which one do you think it is? Oh, yeah. So when I did tell Gary that I don't know why, but I could probably walk away from all this right now. And he said, don't do that. Let's find somebody to bring them into your business. Let them run your business. You go do the next big challenge. So I did that. And I have to be honest, that was a real hard challenge. It was go to Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, get people to do Keller Williams that had never heard of Keller Williams. And one day to quit, and I'm not a quitter, but I was almost 3.5 years in. I hadn't gotten my first market center, and I'm not used to losing either. So I was really thinking about quitting. And I called one of my friends, and the only person I could tell that to, I couldn't tell that to people I was trying to get to do a market center. But anyway, so I called my friend, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. And he said, really? You can't quit. I said, I can't. Can you tell me why? He said, because you never know if you're on the 5-yard line or the 50-yard line. And I am so thankful that I asked him that question because I was on the 5. I got my first market center within a little short period of time, and we were off to the races. So is it an obstacle that's causing you to think about quitting, or is it really a needing and a challenge? You got to really investigate what that is, because you don't know if you're on the 5-yard line or the 50, and you have to ask yourself those hard questions.
If I can share real quick on that too. Any high drivers, really fast-paced people in the room tend to overreact a little bit. That can be me on occasion. And those of you that said, no, I know you. Something I learned early in my career is every time I felt burnt out, I felt like everything was broken. And I just really owned this piece of like, it's all broken. I need to rip it all apart. I need to rebuild it from the ground up. And I spent so much energy around that when realistically, so many things were going great in my business. So one thing I would encourage you to do is just take a step back and say, everything's not broken. Start with, what are the things that are going great in my business right now? Why do I keep showing up every day? What are the things I love to do? And own those for a minute and just celebrate yourself in that. And then ask the question, what's really causing the burnout? And what does that mean for me? Is it that I'm not spending enough time with my family? I don't make it home for dinner enough nights? Is it I'm not making it? Whatever it is, identify exactly how that burnout is showing up. And I think that will give you some clarity on how to approach that. And then the only other thing I would say real quickly is a lot of times for me that has been a leverage problem in my world. It means there's things that are absolutely firing me up in my business, but because I'm doing the things I'm not great at, I don't love to do, it's squashing the fire of the things I do love to do. And that ultimately becomes a leverage issue. The big thing that I want you to know is the same skill set it takes to be a great agent is a completely different skill set to be a great leader. Your drive and who you are will allow you to be a great leader. And leadership is a lot of times leverage and delegation. So I would say if I continue to feel that pain, I need to up my leadership game so I can leverage and attract people in my world that are willing to do those things.
Yeah, I tell our agents all the time, the biggest leap you'll ever make is the leap from salesmanship to leadership. And it shipwrecks a lot of people. And that could be what it is. I think the only thing that I'd add, and it just goes along with what Linda, you said, it's don't trust yourself to find all those answers. For you as a business coach, like often it's a partner, it's a best friend, it's a coach, it's someone who sees the areas of your life that you're winning, that because we're high performers and the world's falling apart, we can't see it for ourselves. So I'd encourage you not to do that in isolation. Engage with other people.
Just one more quick thing in that has been a game changer in my career is to keep me from overreacting is I created a 4-step process anytime I'm feeling pain in my world. So the first thing I look at is I ask myself, do I have the right systems and procedures in place that are going to yield the result? If the answer to that is yes, then the question becomes, am I properly trained on those systems and procedures, or is the person on my team properly trained to those systems or procedures? If the answer is yes to both of those, the next question I ask myself is, am I the right leader for this person? And if I'm not, or if I am, the fourth question I can ask is this person talented? Now, this conversation is a little bit easier in your head when you're doing it about someone else on your team to go through this, but a lot of times I'm having that conversation about myself. And if you get to the end of it and say, yeah, the systems and procedures are right, they would yield the result. 2, yeah, I have been trained. I have gone through the right training to have the skill set to do this. I have surrounded myself by the right leaders. Oh, that means I'm the problem. It's a talent issue. I'm not showing up to my highest ability. And it's the same thing. It's a great conversation if you're leading somebody else on your team that's not showing up, is if they're in agreement that the policies and procedures are right, they're in agreement that you've done your job of properly training them. You ask them if you're not showing up as a leader the way you need to show up. If they're in agreement with all those things, then the conversation gets really interesting. We're saying the only thing it can be is a talent issue. Now, I'm not saying you're not talent. Something's changed in your world that you're not showing up the way we both need you to do to win as an organization. And it changes the complete conversation around what to do next.
You also could take yourself through, get the mineral rights conversations. You've been through fierce conversations, right? Fierce conversations. Take that mineral rights questionnaire, give it to someone else, and ask them to take you through it. Because once you identify the issue, you can solve the problem. But 9 times out of 10, we got to identify the issue first, what the real issue is. And it's not always what you first think it is. It could be even deeper. So if someone will sit with you long enough and go through that mineral rights and you can identify the issue, once you identify the issue, you'll know how to solve it.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I'm going to say something way less smart than what everybody else already said. And I know that you're getting ready to go to Africa for how many days? 2 weeks, right? Yeah. Sometimes you just need a good release, like a good trip. Or, I mean, we take a quarterly trip, Adam and I do, because I know we're going to bust it that quarter. And then it gives me something to look forward to say, okay, we're not doing anything for those 4 days. Like sometimes your brain just, I mean, we have gone through a lot. And I'm not making excuses like Barroso said this morning, but we have gone through a lot over the last couple of years. And I think you have to have like just that decompression time sometimes too. And those of us that are achievers, and I know you, so I can say this because you are, but we go. And my coach said something to me last year that was so true because we were talking about, I don't remember how we got on the topic, but I said, no, I can just do it. And she's like, well, can you do that too? And I'm like, no, yeah, but I can do it all. And she's like, no, but you can until you can't. And so I think, and then I had a can't experience. So I think it's good to like take a little break sometimes if you're feeling that way because you'll come back rejuvenated.
All right. Who's next? We having fun yet? I feel that it's hot up here, but the energy, come on, we can bring the energy back up. Who's next? Who's next? I'll bring it to the back. What questions do you guys have? Oh, don't leave me hanging, guys. Guys, if there was one piece of advice that each of you would give to a top agent in the room today as they think about the future, their future, open-ended, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say sit down, figure out what you want your life to look like, 5 years, 10 years, whenever. What do you want that life to look like? And dream as big as you possibly can. Something Jimmy and I used to do is we'd go to like the Four Seasons Hotel. We wouldn't check in because we really couldn't afford to. But we'd sit in the lobby. We'd sit in their lobby. Go somewhere where you're inspired. The nicest hotel you can think of. Anywhere where you can get inspiration. Sit in that room and plan what you want your life to look like. Because really our businesses are only a byproduct of how to fund that life. But we won't start there. We just selling houses, and we think 50 more houses are going to make me happy, 100 more houses, all those things. What's going to inspire you is what that life is going to look like. What experiences do you want? What trips do you want to take? What charities do you want to be able to fund on a regular basis? Sit down and spend time there. Now, how big does your business have to be to do that? And then now, how many people do you need in your world or on your team to support that kind of business? If you start there, there's a lot more energy and excitement and motivation around it than just sitting down and saying, I need to do this many more deals next year.
No, I love that. I'm a big believer in starting with the end in mind. Like by the way, I'm happy to share my personal mission and vision statement with anyone that's interested when my QR code goes up. But one leg of my personal mission and vision statement is I call myself a bridge builder, which I really love helping people get clarity on what it is, what does the other side of the bridge look like, and what's the other side of the bridge? Current reality. You need both sides of the bridge to build the bridge between them. I think we're good at we take the time to say what we want, but what we're scared to do is have the conversation around what is our current reality. And both points of the bridge are equally important if you're going to build a bridge between them. Otherwise, they won't connect. And so since you took my number one answer, I'm going to go to the no. I love it.
She took mine too.
Because I'm going to go to the other side of the bridge of I think the most missed opportunity from a learning standpoint. And this is the advice I would give top agents, and it's the exact same advice. I've got 4 beautiful daughters, and this is the exact same thing I want to teach my kids. I'm counting on my wife is one of the most angelic human beings you'll ever meet in your life, and she's teaching them all the other things. But these 3 things are the things I want to make sure my kids understand. Number 1 is you have to understand how to communicate. You have to know how to communicate with people. Number 2, you have to learn how to problem solve. The world we live in right now wants us to talk about the problems and be victims around them. The world needs more problem solvers. Communicate, problem solve. And the third thing that I think is a critical skill set that a lot of us are missing is how to identify opportunities. Guys, we are in a chaotic time right now. Guess what? I'm walking into that tornado with a smile on my face because guess what's flying around in there? Opportunities. So the question I would ask you is, how are you really at communicating? And don't just say I talk a lot, so I'm good at it. How are you really at communicating? Do you know how to systematically identify and solve problems? And then as you're moving along and doing what you do great, if an opportunity jumped in front of you, would you identify it and know how to capitalize on it?
I should have gone first. I always have to follow Linda. It's the worst. Just kidding. I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one with Gary Keller 2 years ago, and the first thing he said was, "What's your 10-year plan?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have one." And I've never felt. You should have, gosh. I've never felt so dumb. I thought, I should have been more prepared for this. But of course, he was gracious, and it was great, and we had a wonderful meeting. So I echo everything Linda said. Like, where do you really want to be, and what do you really want to do in 10 years? But my real answer is just evaluate your environment. I tell people, like, I grew up inside of KW, really. I mean, I joined when I was 30, but I have learned really everything that needed to set me up for success and wealth and all the things inside of our company, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. But I think the environment that you're in has so much to do with everything in your life. I mean, your performance, your relationships, your wealth. It's like if you want to get healthy and you know you're hanging around people that aren't healthy, then you're not going to be healthy. If you want to be wealthy and you're hanging around people that aren't wealthy, you're never going to be wealthy. Just really evaluate over the next 10 years, like, where do you want to be? Where do you see your life? And then look at your current environment. And sometimes you outgrow people, and that is a horrible feeling, but it happens, and you just have to kind of roll on with it. But for me, I think the environment is so important because it's where I've been able to just have the most massive change in my life.
Very good. Thank you. I guess I have to go in a completely different direction because all the good answers are taken. So I think what I would say in addition to that would be, as a top agent, how am I the destination for all things home ownership to the people that I serve? Because, and I forget who said it, you're going to have to go out and find the people. They're not just putting their hands up, right? You have to make yourself of value between transactions. And so how are you bringing all points of the journey of home ownership into your database? Because it's not just buy or sell, it's change the air filter, it's contact the plumber, it is all things, it's insure the home. How are those things showing up in your business and in your communication strategy with your people? I believe there's a lot of money to be found inside that question. Now, because this is for KW Next Gen, and I think we're starting to wrap up, it's the end of night one. Energy's starting to come down a little bit in all of us, right? I have one question that's specifically related to KW Next Gen and the people that Next Gen is for. Let's not focus on top agents in the room. What would you say to the 18 to 25-year-old in each of your lives right now, just about finding their way in life?
I would say do as much as you possibly can, because I think they wait to try to find the one thing or the perfect thing that's their purpose or whatever. You find your purpose along the way. Gary said something so profound to me years ago. I'm an achiever. Once I achieve something, I try to figure out what else is next to achieve. So I think everybody should be that way, and everybody's not necessarily that way. And so I called him frustrated. He said, Linda, life is about becoming. And even people in your own family, sometimes if you're like this, they don't understand why you're constantly want to achieve it. Well, I have a sister who is total opposite of me. Like, I hate cleaning. She argued with me my whole childhood life about how terrible I made a bed. And so one day I said to her, well, one of these days, I'm not going to have to make my own bed. Someone else is. She makes my bed today. She does a beautiful job. She loves it. She loves it. We make a great, we make a great team, but she always didn't understand why I'm always doing things, why I'm always going. We'd have a party at our house, and if you're a realtor, you're not going to be the first one back to your house for that party. You're going to squeal in at the last minute. She would have to greet all the people, and she doesn't like to greet people. But she said to me, I don't understand why you always have to be doing so much. And I don't know. I'm just wired that way. And so I said it only took me 2 first-class tickets to Hawaii to get her to stop asking me why I had to do so much. So now she says, I don't know what it is you do, but go do some more of it. But the message that Gary gave me was so powerful, and all of us should understand this. Life is about becoming. And the way that you become is you get out there and you go see what all you can achieve. And you fail some, you succeed some, you fail some more. Because in all of that's how you're going to become. And if we stop that, we don't know what the limit is on who we can actually become. And if I really think about my 30-something year journey in this business, I'm proud of who I've become, that I am all the millions of dollars that have come along by bringing value to the world. So just focus on who you can become by going out there and achieving over and over again. Sports teams don't win one Super Bowl and go back to the field house and do nothing. They go back out on that field and they work for who else they can become. And so I think if we, a 25-year-old, if I would just say, focus on becoming, and the only way you're going to get to becoming is go try a bunch of stuff. Go do more and more and more until you figure out what your purpose is and who you are. Because I don't going to wake up one day and you're 18 to 25 and say, oh, I know my purpose. It's going to take you getting some life experiences to discover that.
Great answer. No, you did. Great. No, but great job. I would say 2 things. Several people in this room have been through one of my wealth building classes, and I feel like a lot of the problems we're facing in the world and in our country can be linked back to our relationship with money. And one of the things I say when I teach that wealth building class to adults is, I want you to change your relationship with money, but more importantly, I want you to go teach your kids how to start thinking about money differently. And I think collectively, if we can help people think about money different and the power of money and what it really means at a younger age, our kids and our grandkids' future will look significantly different. So I'll give 2 answers. One is we all should examine our relationship with money and what that looks like and rethink that and learn more about the power of money and pass that on to our kids. And then the other thing that I would share real quick is I had an opportunity to go to a high school recently and talk to the entrepreneur program. And the minute I walked in, and these conversations are so fun with these kids because they're so impressed with how they're thinking. And on their wall, they had this big statement that says, think outside the box. And we've all heard that term 1,000 times. But I turned to the kids and said, what does this mean to you? And they gave me like a quick answer. And I said, but what does it actually mean to think inside the box? Like, for you to understand what it means to think outside the box, you need to understand first what it means to think inside the box. And I told them the way that I think today is now inside the box, where before the way I was thinking was outside of everybody else's box. We got to remember the box is changing on a day-to-day basis. So when you were thinking out of the box and it yielded a result for you because the way the world changed, you're now thinking inside the box, but you put this hat on and say, look at me, I think outside the box. So we had a great conversation with these kids of like, the world is trying to tell you to live inside this box. The most successful people I know live outside of this box, but they're also living in a way by the time the box catches up with them, they're outside the box again. And so one of the things I'd encourage kids to think about is, what is the world trying to tell you to live? How is the world trying to tell you to live? If that's inside the box, what does living outside the box mean for you?
Mine's really short and easy, and it's just, do not be afraid of hard work. I feel, actually, Linda just texted me and said, where are all the people that want to work as hard as we want to work? And I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, it's something that we're talking to our kids about right now. Just anybody that I know that has a successful, fulfilled life would say that they worked really hard. And I think people sometimes younger are scared of the harder work. And I would just say, like, don't be afraid of the hard work. I mean, and hard work is fun. Like we talked about that this morning. There are stressful moments and, you burn out, but it's also fun. I mean, I look back and some of the craziest times when I worked the hardest, I'm like, well, I had the most fun doing that. So just, work hard.
I'm going to share a really powerful moment that I had when I first got into KW. Have you guys ever had that moment where you're sitting in a crowd and you feel like the speaker's eyes lock into your eyes? Yeah? Right now? I had one of those moments. It was my first conference ever. It happened to be something called Mega Agent Camp, 2017. I was sitting in the sea of 8,000 people, and it was like Gary's eyes locked with mine. It was super creepy. But he said, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. And to make matters even worse, you then have that moment where the eyes aren't only locked, but then the spotlight goes right onto you. And it was like Gary then zeroed in even further and he said, you can be anywhere you want inside this company in 5 years. And so I think the thing that I would tell an 18 to 25-year-old is that don't evaluate yourself on too short of a time horizon. Give yourself some runway to make mistakes and fail. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to have your definite major purpose and your life's mission statement all figured out like these people do. But in 5 years, you can be anywhere that you want. And I know that most of us aren't 18 to 25 in this room, but I hope that each of us will take heed of that same piece of advice. Maybe you are feeling a little burnt out even though it's your best year. Maybe you're not having the year that you would like to have. Maybe you've got to lengthen the time horizon just a little bit. Because we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 5. And guys, here's what I know. Every single one of you can be anywhere you want inside this company in 5 years. So go play all in and do really big things. Guys, I want to thank our bar crew, Clay, Isaac, and Dime. Give it up for Pint House Brewing. I want to thank our sponsors, Aaron at Earnest and Matt and Porab at Rejig.ai. Check them out. Guys, we've got 3 QR codes up on the screen. That is for Everything Life in Real Estate, the whole enchilada, and Real Talk with David. Please subscribe. If you had fun tonight, did you have fun tonight? Please leave us a rating and review. It's how we can continue to bring and scale our value to you guys on a weekly basis. Please share it with someone that you know. And finally, I want to thank my friends who are up in front because every time I get to listen to these 3, I learned something that's going to impact my family and my life. So Marcus, Linda, Dana, thank you so much. Give it up for these 3. Gary likes to say onward. I can't steal that. I'm sure it's trademarked. So here's what I've got to say. Keep charging and make it an amazing week. Guys, the kitchen's open for another hour. Have a great Mega Camp week. See you later.
Hey, Enchilada Nation, I hope you found as much value in that conversation as I did. Take a minute, jot down your top 2 or 3 takeaways, and just go take charge. Keep charging forward in this market. The person with the most grit and energy and action is going to win. Don't forget, go live life on your terms.